Hello and welcome to the conversation on this, the 20th of February. My name is Blaise Bryant. If you are noticing there is a bit of a sound difference, well, we're using a portable audio recorder because we're having some technical issues in the radio studio. So we're making do with what we have, and that is something that oftentimes you have to do in theater. And joining me right now is Brendan Tenan, who helps out with stuff at the Egg. He was previously a theater major at another college before becoming a communications major here at St. Rose, and it's always great to have Brendan here on the show, and he's also part of Are You Not Entertained?
Thanks for having me on the show, Blaise. I like listening to your introductions. I gotta say, you do a good job of talking up your guests, so thank you for that.
Well, I really do my best, and it's always great to have you here. So, Brendan, let's talk about how you got into theater.
All right, yeah, sure. I wouldn't say I was one of the typical theater kids. Compared to some other people that I know, I started fairly late. I wasn't involved in any plays until the eighth grade, and I got to do a fun play where I played a really sort of ditzy airhead bird brain mobster. So it was a lot of fun. I had a great time doing it, and then I continued doing acting. That was the interesting thing is I started out as an actor, and so the first few years in high school, I was just strictly an actor, and then finally, like the last year and a half in high school, I started getting a little bit of exposure to the technical elements and various technical elements that my high school, Albany High School, allowed students to be involved in at the time. And then it progressed on to college, and I've done some work at a number of different professional theaters around the area since then.
What sort of technical elements are you talking about in terms of theater?
I've done just about everything except for costumes and makeup.
Yeah, I
And
couldn't see you being very good at that, but
I've done well. That's not completely true because I have been on like wardrobe teams having to help people with quick changes during performances backstage, but I do not know how to sew to save my life, and I don't know the first thing about makeup. So those are really like the two elements in terms of a stage production that I really have little to no experience in. The primary things that I've been involved with and spent most of my time in have been with carpentry, set building, loading in scenery, tearing it down after a show is over, things like that, and electrics, specifically the lighting for theatrical productions.
so you are essentially a handyman.
Yeah, yeah, I would say so. I'm kind of a handyman, a little bit of a. I would like to call myself a jack of all trades just because I like that phrase. I think it's a really kind of cool title. Uh, but
Well, that's just more syllables for me to say.
yeah, it's only one more.
No, two more.
Jack of all
Oh,
trades.
yeah, you're right.
the Nevertheless, yeah, handyman, jack of all trades. I don't really specialize or have a level of expertise in any one field to get to your point. You know, I have a decent set of skills in carpentry and especially in lighting. I've gotten a good deal of experience there. But other than that, I just have a strong working knowledge in the other fields, in stage management, in sound engineering, and even a little bit of sound designing, um, all of that stuff.
So, what's your favorite aspect of being a jack of all trades and doing all of this stage stuff, and why?
It all goes back to the live performance, I think. There's something that's really special and cool about theater that other forms of entertainment just don't offer you. I'm a huge movie fan, but at the same time, there's a certain level of magic, for lack of a better term, that movies can't offer to you as a viewer the way that a night out at the theater does. You're much more involved. In you're sort of like in the moment, especially there's depending on the stage that the play is taking on, the action can be happening like right at your feet. And so it's a whole different level of a 3D experience than what you can get in movie theaters.
Right, because you as an audience member can be a part of the play through laughter and the actors on the stage looking out at the audience and seeing the emotion versus in the movie, it's already done. Everything's recorded. You're just sitting there absorbing.
Exactly. Yeah, that's absolutely right.
So, what would you say are some of the best places to view theater in the capital region?
That's a really good question. One of the things, the easiest answer, and it's kind of a cop out in my opinion, is to just simply say Broadway, because of the fact that you're in Albany. New York City is 2.5, 3 hours away by car, by bus. It's probably around the same distance if you wanted to take the train. But a lot of people will do that. They'll make a day trip and go see a matinee on Broadway to one of the shows that are playing on the Great White Way, and that's absolutely great. I love the fact that people are able to do that. I've done it myself. But in terms of locally in the Tri-City area, in the Capital District, the fact of the matter is there's only one residential year-round professional theater company, and that's Capitol Repertory Theater, which is located in downtown Albany. There are other really good theaters in around here, but there are what we call roadhouses, where they bring in touring productions. So that's places like Proctor's in Schenectady, or the Palace just a couple blocks down the street from Capitol Rep in Albany. Um, Really great venues, and I've seen some terrific shows there. But like I said, they're what we call a roadhouse. They bring in shows that are touring on the road all across the country. What separates Capitol Rep is they build all of their shows themselves from the ground up.
So there was a few weeks ago. What was it? The Mountaintop.
The Mountaintop, yeah. I did not get to see that, unfortunately. I was really bummed out about that.
So they build their own sets and they literally do everything.
Yeah,
Wow.
they've gotten into the practice. Let me qualify that a little bit. They've gotten into the practice of doing what are called co-productions, where they will work with another regional theater company somewhere else in the country, oftentimes somewhere else in the Northeast, like Vermont or Massachusetts, and the two artistic directors of those theaters will talk to each other and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing the Mountaintop. Oh, we're thinking about doing the Mountaintop too. How about we use the same set and the same costume pieces, and we'll split the cost."
But
So,
they're all on different days, right?
yes, they'll be on different days. So, like, I don't know if the Mountaintop was one, but let's just say hypothetically it was. So, Capital Rep just finished up their run a week or two ago with the Mountaintop. Uh, with the co-production, what they could do is they would take the same cast, the same costumes, same scenery, same sound effects, all of that, and ship it over to another theater in Massachusetts or Rhode Island, and they would do the show in like April.
Okay. So it's not like when you go to Regal Cinemas at Crossgates and there will sometimes be what are called simulcasts of the opera where people are sitting in various movie theaters throughout the country and listening to productions from the Metropolitan Opera.
Correct. It's not like that. It's quite a bit different, but it's a way for to have really great shows be uh, get shared and spread across the country, and it's an effective cost cutting measure for theaters.
What about the viewing experience?
In terms of,
Do you like it better than, do you like going to Capitol Rep better than going to somewhere, for example, the Palace Theater or Proctor's? And
I see, yeah.
it's got to be
I do.
cheaper too.
Um, I think it is a little bit cheaper, but what there is a tremendous viewing difference, and that's because of the fact that Capitol Repertory Theater is a very small theater. It seats just under 300 people.
Wow.
Palace Theater and Proctor's, they hold a couple thousand easily. They're very large, regal-looking, old-style proscenium theaters that were constructed back in like the vaudeville era. They just have that classic, beautiful look to them. And so seeing a really great over-the-top Broadway-style show at places there is great for that reason. Like I saw South Pacific there a few years ago, and it was a great at Proctor's. It was a great production, and being at the Proctor's stage and in that classic type of theater works for that show. However, at Capitol Rep, because it's so much smaller, it's much more intimate. The audience is literally right on top of you. There's very few bad seats in the house. You're able to take a show like To Kill a Mockingbird, for instance, which they did a few years ago, and you can get so much more power and emotion out of that show, which is already chock full of it,
Oh, yeah.
because of the fact that it's such an intimate space.
We have about 2 minutes. Your favorite and most interesting stage story?
Oh, I have so many. One of my most interesting stage experiences was doing a show at Capitol Rep many years ago called Metamorphoses, and it was a collection of ancient Greek stories written by Ovid. And what was really unique about it was the set was literally a pool of water.
Really?
The set was basically a swimming pool. It wasn't like Olympic size. But it was about 15 feet in diameter and 2.5 or 3 feet deep. So it was just a really phenomenal, unique experience.
Were you a rock?
No, I was a stage extra actually. I did get to be on the stage and go into the water for a scene where there was like a shipwreck and stuff like that. Um, but it was just a really, really cool, unique production. Uh, a lot of people ask me about unique experiences or unexpected experiences, because that's one of the other things that people like about live theater is you don't know when something will go wrong, and it's because it's live. If there's a mishap, there's nothing you can do about it. You just got to roll with it. Uh, we had a we did a show where during a scene interlude, an actress was dancing around the stage doing an Irish jig, and we had decided to use these as a gag, a sight gag. All these old sort of vaudeville style tricks where we'd have like a cane try and reach out from behind the stage to grab her and yank her off, or like a bag of flour to drop down from the ceiling to try and like hit her on the head. And all these things were supposed like the what made it funny is all these things were supposed to just miss her within like a fraction of a second.
Wow.
Well, one time she stayed on one specific mark, just a hair of a second too long, and this bag of flour, which it wasn't actually flour, it was just filled with cotton balls, but it came down and it hit her on the head.
Well,
And so it was everybody in the audience instantly gasped, a huge collective gasp of over 200 people just freaking out like, oh my God, poor actress just got hit smack on the head.
That's great. That's a great way to end part one of the conversation. Brendan Tenan is the host of Are You Not Entertained? He's also the executive producer of Radio St. Rose. Check out Capitol Rep's website, Proctor's Theater, and the Palace Theater's website for more information about upcoming shows. Brendan, it's always great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Hey, thanks a lot, Blaise.
The conversation continues in 15 seconds, and there we talk about flowers. So welcome back to the second half of the conversation here on Radio St. Rose, and joining me is Rachel Gagnon. She is a floral designer at Price Chopper. She's been doing that for a few years. She also studies photography here at St. Rose, and you're a senior, right?
I'm actually a sophomore.
Oh, sophomore. Well, they both start with an S. And either way, it's great to have you here. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
A pleasure. So, how did you decide, or what made you want to just kind of play around with flowers?
Well, working at Price Chopper, they usually have you start on register on the front end, bagging things, dealing with customers that way. And I guess I gave off a certain amount of personality and showed an interest in just creatively creating things, I suppose, where they were looking for extra help, and I just kind of got thrown into it, and 4 years later, here I am.
So, you probably like the floral thing better than the whole dealing with people and bagging stuff. I mean, I don't imagine who wouldn't.
No, absolutely. I feel like I really lucked out in that respect.
Trust me, I work in retail, so it's a drag.
Oh, yeah.
And what Price Chopper do you work at?
20 Mall Price Chopper.
20 Mall, where's that?
Well, it's in Guilderland. It's currently Hamilton Square. They're trying to mix it up.
Okay, so luckily, you're not dealing with the one on Madison Avenue.
No, that one is pretty small. I don't even think they have a florist there.
Although they did have flowers there at the Price Chopper on Madison Ave.
Yeah, they have like a wall cooler. That's what we call it, where it's in the wall. The flowers are kept cool and water, primarily bouquets.
So when these flowers are kind of distributed, does Price Chopper do all the designing for the different stores, or how does that work, or do you not know?
Well, depending on if it's everyday or holiday, generally on holidays we get arrangements pre-made that are ordered through our ordering system. The manager or co-manager will order them, send them in, and we'll sell them right on the spot. But generally, the everyday arrangements that we keep in our cooler, in the departments, each individual florist will make them up fresh as we need them.
So, what goes into floral designing?
Well, generally you start with some kind of, it depends on if you want to have it just in water, in a vase, or if it's going to be in some kind of container where you can't hold water, and then we use what's called oasis, and it's like an absorbent styrofoam kind of material.
Okay.
So you would stick flowers in that, and you start with some kind of support. So we use leather leaf, which is a type of fern, and we make a lattice work in the vase to create a stable support for the flowers so that you can make it look like a lot of flowers are standing upright, but really it's not as many.
So things aren't always as good as they seem.
No, of course not, and I feel like that's the way the world works.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more there. So, I mentioned in the intro that you also do photography. How often do you get to integrate the creativity of photography with the creativity of floral designing?
That's a good question. Absolutely, all the time. There's a lot of correlation between floral designing and because it generally is a visual art. So composition, the way it's arranged in space, color is a huge factor. Which colors go together, and it's the same thing that's used in photography and painting as well, and sculpture. So there's a lot to draw from within the art forms.
Gotcha. Valentine's Day that which just passed.
Oof.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, I know.
What is it about pink roses that makes them so classic, especially on Valentine's Day?
Well, I'd have to correct you there, and it would be the red. The
Okay.
red roses are really the selling point. I'm not quite sure how that originated, but there's a sort of old-time romanticism about a long-stemmed rose, probably maybe from the glamour Hollywood, era where the long stem rose is Cary Grant style and all that kind of classy romanticism, I suppose.
Gotcha. So it's the red ones that are
Yes.
classic.
Yes, those are the ones that we sell out of first.
Okay, because I was told that pink ones are always classic.
Pink is more of a younger, actually. I feel more generally younger people will buy more pink roses either for their girlfriends or sweethearts or crushes and what have you.
Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, I may or may not have been guilty of that, but I mean, nonetheless, I mean, giving flowers is something that I think is kind of a difficult thing to come to terms with, because people deal with hardships and whatnot. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to give flowers.
Yeah.
Like, what's that like? Dealing with that challenge in
At
terms
work,
of
you
floral
mean?
designing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, no, there's always there's three kinds of people generally that come in to shop for flowers. There's someone that comes in and says, "This is the kind of thing I want. I don't care how much it is. I just want it to look nice." There's a person that comes in and says, "I don't know what I'm doing. I want it to look nice." And then there's a person that comes in and says, "I don't know what I'm doing. I want it to look nice and I want it to be cheap." So it's hard sometimes because you know that the flowers are only going to last a certain amount of time. So you kind of have to like judge the customer based on their needs. And generally, I feel it's best to recommend long-lasting flowers that we would put together ourselves in a bouquet.
So, what are examples of long-lasting flowers?
I would say carnations, chrysanthemums. There's also a type of flower called alstroemeria. It looks like very small little lilies, and those will last about 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, so the general life of a cut flower is about a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the days of giving high school carnations. Just
yeah, the
because
dyed ones. Yeah, yeah. Like Happy St. Patrick's Day. I have a crush on you.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, this is certainly an all year round thing for you. So, take us through, the different
seasons.
holidays and
Yeah.
the seasons. Yeah.
I would say the best time of year for a florist would be maybe not income-wise, but that would be summer because you have a really wide selection of flowers that are in season. There aren't really very many holidays, so it's kind of easygoing. People come in, it's a steady stream of customers. It's beautiful. Everyone is happy. The sun's out. People, it's all good. So that would be summer. And then we get our first shipment of chrysanthemum plants in. And then everyone knows what's coming, and that's fall. And it's the saddest thing in the world when we get that box of plants in because we know that our outdoor displays are going to start. We're going to have to start selling everything that's burgundy, orange, yellow, and brown, which of course are the most beautiful of color combinations. I personally don't prefer it. And then we move into Thanksgiving, where we get a lot of table arrangements, centerpieces. So there's a high demand for that, like with candles and cornucopias and such. Then there's Christmas, of course, and the same thing goes. The centerpieces, dinners, candles. And then, let me think. Valentine's Day would be the next.
Sure.
Um,
And then what about...
then Mother's Day. Mother's Day would be next. Nope, Easter.
Easter?
Easter's first. Easter's first, and same thing, table arrangements. Also, churches will buy lilies in ginormous amounts in bulk. And then Mother's Day, which is the highest income that we get. It's our biggest holiday, not getting in product-wise, but the amount of money people will spend much more money on their mothers than their significant other.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not like the mother is going to be like, I'm going to break up with you.
No way. Yeah.
You just talked about a minute ago the burgundy brown color combinations, those not being your favorite.
No.
Why is that?
It's so limiting. It's so typical fall colors. I feel like fall should be different colors, like dusty pinks and warm browns with some yellow and some like mossy things. I feel like it should be more like you're lost in the woods on a hike or something, not like I'm falling into a big bucket of leaves with a jack-o'-lantern. Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I completely agree with you, because people's spirits tend to dampen, and, let's have some bright colors to cancel that out,
Exactly, yeah.
I have, I think, about 3 minutes. 2 minutes, excuse me. So, how often do you take pictures of, like, some of the flowers that you...
Oh, that's funny. No, no, because we totally do all the time. And,
So, like, flower selfies?
Yeah, basically. No, I'll have, the girls and I will, that's my fellow florists, will, after an arrangement or say, I forgot to mention, we do weddings as well, weddings and funerals, so those are year-round events, and whenever, like, a bride's bouquet is finished or her centerpieces, we'll always pose with it and take a picture of it in some nice light. I feel that I wish we had portfolios that we could start working on, but we just don't have the room or I guess maybe the motivation to start doing that. But I really like to take pictures of arrangements when I'm really proud of them, when it's not so much the standard FTD or price chopper looking arrangement, where it's something that's a little more creative, a little more contemporary, maybe a little more creative, I guess.
Gotcha. In about 30 to 45 seconds, what's your favorite type of flower to play around with, and why?
That's a hard question. Ooh. Jeez. They all serve such different purposes. Probably lilies. I really like working with the lilies because of how linear they are, and especially stargazer lilies. They're really beautiful. They've got this bright pink center that just kind of explodes out of them, and the scent is just fantastic. So either that or some really nice delphinium with a really rich blue.
Fantastic. I love the smell of lilies, too.
Yeah.
Rachel Gagnon is a florist at Price Chopper. She also studies photography here at the College of St. Rose. Rachel, thanks so much for taking the time to come in. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you. I had a great time.
Hey, anytime. And this is The Conversation on Radio St. Rose. Check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/Radio St. Rose Conversation. You may also email the show at Bryant, BRYANTB587 at strose.edu. And later this week, we will have videos up on YouTube. For The Conversation, I'm Blaise Bryant.